I'd like to welcome you again, everyone, to this third webinar of the COP30 Buildings and Cooling Pavilion webinar series. This is a sequence of interactive sessions hosted by the Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction and the Cool Coalition. We use the series in the lead up to COP30 to provide you, our partners and our sponsors in the Pavilion with strategic updates, coordination opportunities, and the chance to shape the Pavilion's agenda and impact. I am Marisofi Giannulli. I am the communications lead for the Cool Coalition. It's my pleasure to serve as your moderator today. As you see, we have a distinguished panel of speakers. And I hope we had a good summer break, whether you were actually somewhere summery or not, because now it's September and our attention is sharpened once again. And we're just ahead of the 80th UN General Assembly, which will mark a key milestone for our pavilion planning and for planning in the environmental agenda in general. So today we'll hear from leaders in the industry, finance, the broader sustainable development community on how we ensure that the built environment and cooling can be well represented at COP30 and beyond as pillars of climate implementation, adaptation, and mitigation. We'll also walk you through a little bit through key updates on the pavilion structure, how we're aligning our programming with the newly announced thematic dates. But before we begin all that, I want to give you a few housekeeping notes. You will notice your mics are muted. Your cameras are disabled. Please keep them that way throughout the session. This webinar is being recorded and the recording will be shared with all of you after the event is posted on our YouTube channels. And we'll also publish a summary article as we do for all these webinars, capturing key takeaways from today. In the meantime, I encourage you to post your questions in the chat throughout the session. Our team will be collecting and filtering them and we'll be getting to them as soon as possible, also during the Q&A. But if you have many, we'll be there to handle them throughout the sessions. So with that, I will actually move on to our first speaker, who is Rusmir Muzic. He is the Global Cooling Lead and Climate Finance Expert at the International Finance Corporation. And if I'm right, he will share some lessons with us because IFC has had some important roadshows in Brazil and beyond, illustrating how finance and local engagement can accelerate climate action ahead of COP30. So with that, I give the floor to you, Rusmir.
Thank you so much, Marisofi. It's a pleasure to meet with all of you. Again, my name is Rusmir. I have been working with IFC for about 15 years in many different areas. That's why you'll see the climate finance expert. I used to work specifically on green buildings with our EDGE program and now lead our work on cooling. Traveling around the world has been interesting. IFC has actually done 11 roadshows in the past about 18 months. And we're really listening to clients around what are some of the challenges and what are some of the opportunities. The opportunities have really been around saving on utility bills. Ultimately, all of the work around cooling and buildings is about mitigation. We have solutions that will save the bills to the ultimate users. And there's a lot of work available for adaptation. So more and more, I think the world is waking up to the fact that the temperatures are rising, that previous, maybe even natural cooling and others is maybe not enough, and they have to really step up their work. And we want to make sure that those things are not done in an unsustainable way where, everybody buys an AC rather, they plug in the AC and the emissions from those air conditioners are then causing the temperatures to go up even more. So we will continue to do this particular work, as Marisofi said, on the way to the COP. What I'm very excited, we don't have yet a space to announce it, but you'll get this information. Marisofi will help me send the invite. In September, we're going to launch our Sustainable Buildings Finance Reference Guide. So this is a really interesting piece of work that actually will walk through the interested developers and investors on how they could launch green finance, plug into green finance flows, and really benefit from sustainable buildings. We will also continue to bring awareness in countries like South Africa, Kenya. Kenya is one of the signatories of the Global Cooling Pledge, and we'll continue to work in Brazil and the other countries where we have done our programs. One of the main things that we bring to the market, if you will, is that IFC has a project preparation facility. This is funded by the UK government, by the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero. So we're really excited to work with them. That facility can help a client that's looking for IFC financing understand their strategy, understand where their cooling needs ultimately are, and then access funds to actually pilot innovative technologies. We are doing this as an evolution of a previous program that IFC has done. It's called Tech Emerge, which had done some really successful pilots, and we want to scale that up and now work with the companies that are looking for IFC financing as well. Our financing, we are looking for bigger projects, so not necessarily smaller firms, but we can match make the smaller firms with the bigger off-takers and really help them scale up some of the work that they're doing. Let me stop there, and I'm happy to kind of go in more into details of some of these workshops. Some of them in Africa will be, I can post in the chat here. People can start signing up for these workshops, as I said, and then the one for the Sustainable Finance Reference Guide, that announcement will come out mid-September, and we will do a webinar with UNEP in October for that.
Many thanks, Rusmir. And it really sounds very exciting, and I'm looking forward to the newest one, collaborating with you this month.
Excellent.
So
No, our
more
message is that this is a money-saving opportunity for all end users. We want you to understand that sustainable cooling and green buildings is not something that's available only to developed countries. The incremental costs are not as high as people think, and we have lots of ways that the users can ultimately benefit, whether that's accessing green finance, lowering their utility bills, differentiating themselves in the market, many, many benefits, and we have been able to collect and collate all of those in our guides.
Thank you. Thank you. That sounds truly interesting. And I'm sure we will have more questions on that coming up. For our next presentation, I'd like to invite Mrs. Yuki Ochoka, lead from CSR and Global Environment Center at Daikin Industries. She will highlight how energy-efficient HVAC solutions can advance building decarbonization and also address improving comfort and well-being, because that's something that's important to all of us, correct? So, Ms. Ochoka, you have the floor. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Good morning or afternoon or evening, everyone. My name is Yuki Otsuka from Daikin Industries. I'm very pleased to be here today and have the opportunity to make a presentation. So next slide, please. Some of you may not be familiar with Daikin Industries, so let me briefly introduce the company. Daikin is the world's leading air conditioning manufacturer, headquartered in Japan, with over 100 years of history and experience in the field of air conditioning. Next slide, please. Out of the total sales of over 4 trillion yen, air conditioning accounts for 92%. In addition to air conditioning, we also operate in other areas such as the chemical businesses. Next slide, please. As an air conditioning manufacturer, we offer a wide range of products. From residential units to commercial and industrial systems, we have extensive lineups for all types of needs, including those for energy savings, the environment, ventilation, comfort, peace of mind, safety, and health. Next slide, please. One of Daikin's strengths is that we have production bases in 28 countries and operate businesses in over 170 countries worldwide, based on a strategy of local production for local consumption. Daikin has announced its support for the Global Cooling Pledge, and our efforts are in line with the direction of it, and we will continue to expand these initiatives around the world to help achieve the goals of the pledge. Next slide, please. At Daikin, we aim to bring the benefits of air conditioners and heat pumps to more people. Air conditioning contributes to healthy and safe living, boosting productivity and economic growth, and adaptation to climate change, and so on. We believe that air conditioning is already an essential part of social infrastructure. Next slide, please. Yes, in the context of building decarbonization, these figures, based on data from Japan, highlights that operational carbon accounts for more than 50% of whole life carbon emissions. Looking at energy consumption breakdowns, air conditioners and heat pumps account for 39% in office buildings and 47% in hotels. This shows that improving energy efficiency is one of the important keys for building decarbonization. Next slide, please. I would like to introduce some products and technologies that improve energy efficiency. Yes, that one. Here you can see a diagram of how an air source heat pump works for heating. Heat pump is a device that can provide heating, cooling, and hot water for residential, commercial, and industrial use. Air source heat pumps use heat from the outside air, which is renewable, and the key energy source to generate the desired indoor temperature with less electricity. Next slide, please. On this slide, we would like to show that heat pumps are more efficient than fossil fuel boilers or furnaces and electric heaters. According to the EU Ecodesign Minimum Seasonal Space Heating Energy Efficiency, set based on market studies, heat pumps are 137%, which means that heat pumps can produce at least 137 units of heat from 100 units of primary energy input, making them more energy efficient. It shows how heat pumps work efficiently compared to conventional heating equipment. And thanks to their higher primary energy efficiency, as shown in the second graph on the right, heat pumps result in significantly lower total lifetime GHG emissions compared to gas boilers. We can expect less emissions from heat pumps accordingly when electricity CO2 emissions intensity is reduced in the future. Next slide, please. The third graph illustrates that heat pumps are an affordable solution in some leading heating markets, thanks to the low operating cost of air conditioners. And as noted on the right side of the slide, air-to-air reversible air conditioning units can provide both cooling and heating. Next slide, please. Regarding the market situation, heat pump market is stagnant, and to overcome the current challenges in the adoption of heat pumps and to further accelerate it, we see these 4 points as key. Narrowing the electricity gas price gap. Countries with a smaller electricity gas price gap tend to have a higher heat pump penetration rate. Second is utilization of energy efficiency regulation or building code to spread energy efficient solution and reduce inefficient equipment, including a fair comparison of heat pump with gas boiler furnace and electric heater. Third is public financial support to reduce initial cost, for example, tax incentives and subsidies. This is because high initial cost of heat pump is one of the barriers to its widespread use. And the last one is effective use of affordable energy efficient reversible air-to-air heat pumps, not just air-to-water heat pumps. In some countries, further awareness raising is needed. Next slide, please. One of the key technologies that leads to higher energy efficiency is the inverter. Inverter technology optimally controls the speed of the compressor motor inside the outdoor unit of air conditioners based on room temperature. Inverter air conditioners can reduce electricity consumption compared to non-inverter models by less energy loss when turning the motor on or off. Next slide, please. So, how energy efficient is inverter air conditioners? In demonstration experiments conducted by Daikin in collaboration with universities and national institutions across various countries, inverter air conditioners showed an energy saving rate of 35% to 64% compared to non-inverter models. Next slide, please. However, as shown in this map, there are still many countries where inverter air conditioners have not yet become widespread, such as the North America, Latin America, Middle East, Africa, and Southeast Asia. Next slide, please. To accelerate the adoption of inverter air conditioners, we believe there are 3 key factors to focus on. First, use of seasonal performance evaluation standard to evaluate air conditioning's performance to reflect efficiency closer to actual usage condition. Second, establishing labeling program to guide consumers to choose energy-efficient air conditioning. And thirdly, reviewing minimum energy performance standard to raise energy efficiency of the market. Next slide, please. So next, talking about energy recovery ventilation. Ventilation is essential for buildings as required by various regulations. However, normal ventilation often leads to heat loss. Energy recovery ventilation systems help recover energy by managing both humidity and temperature, which reduces the load on air conditioners and contributes to overall energy savings. Next slide, please. So this is the last slide. Daikin will participate in COP30 as a sponsor of the Global ABC's Buildings and Cooling Pavilion. We plan to host sessions covering the topics shown here on the screen. Today's presentation was a brief overview, but at COP30, we look forward to discussing how air conditioning technologies, including those introduced today, can contribute to zero-emission buildings and people's well-being, together with stakeholders from around the world. If you're planning a session at COP30, we would be happy to support you in any way we can because we will be at the venue. And for those attending COP30 in person, we hope you join our sessions. So please feel free to contact me anytime. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Otsuka, for this very comprehensive presentation. Daikin is an industry leader. We are very, very lucky to count you among our partners at the Cool Coalition and generally in the built environment. So we're really looking forward to the sessions with you at the Buildings and Cooling Pavilion, especially in these days where heat waves are making cooling and something essential, something that is needed for our well-being and to address heat stress and for productivity, for health, for everything. So thank you again very much. And moving to our next speaker, who's also a leader in the industry, we will hear from Dr. Vincent Chen, who is the Deputy CEO at Delta Electronics Foundation. Dr. Chen will highlight how innovation in AI, smart energy management, and building analytics can advance green buildings, decarbonization, and climate resilience. So something that is very relevant to what is happening in the world today. Dr. Chen, you have the floor. We're really excited to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, distinguished colleagues, partners, and friends. I'm Vincent Chen, Deputy CEO of the Delta Electronics Foundation. At the DEF, our mission is to advance environmental education and sustainable development by combining technology, green building practice, and community engagement. As a proud partner of the COP Buildings and the Cooling Pavilion, we are here to help move climate pledge into real, measurable results. One of our most exciting initiatives is applying artificial intelligence to green building education. We developed a LED AI teaching assistant powered by ChatGPT 4.0 Mini with retrieval augmented generation technology. This tool helps students, architects, and engineers quickly find LED version 5 guidelines, and they can compare them with version 4 and explore real-world case studies in an interactive and intuitive way. By bringing AI into the learning process, we shorten training time, we lower barriers, and we improve both exam readiness and the project design efficiency. In short, AI is not just a research tool, it becomes a practical accelerator for building sustainable design capacity. First, our smart cooling education program. We work with the schools and the communities to teach energy efficiency hands-on. By installing IoT sensors and showing results on user-friendly dashboards, students and the facility managers can monitor temperature, air quality, and energy use, and explore both passive and high-efficiency cooling strategies. This makes climate control tangible and shows how small adjustment in behavior and the design can add up a big saving. Second, our lead LED Zero Energy Campus pilots. They are living laboratories that integrate high-performance building materials, renewable energy like solar PV, battery storage, and natural ventilation. They are open for tours and workshops, turning real buildings into classrooms. Visitors don't just hear about low-carbon design, they experience it. And the experience inspires both the public and the academia to imagine and to build sustainable spaces. Next slide, please. Third, in our factory, we are applying AI-driven chiller scheduling. Right now, we use the weighted forecast data to optimize chiller operation schedules. It can lower cooling load and reducing the energy consumption. This has already produced measurable savings. The next step is even more ambitious. We are going to using AI to interpret forecasts directly and adjust the control in real time. That means no manual intervention, just efficient, data-driven, intelligent cooling that can be replicated worldwide. And beyond factories, Delta is demonstrating industry leadership in data center cooling. Globally, the average data center PUE is about 1.55. Even good new facility achieve around 1.2. But Delta has achieved PUE as low as 1.1. We using the advanced liquid cooling and the system optimization way to achieve that. This places us among the best performers globally and shows that leadership in cooling technology can deliver real impact. Beyond technology, we also invest in research that guides global conversation. Recently, Delta supported Economist Impact to release the report, Greening Intelligence, Charting the Future of Sustainable AI. Two sides stand out. Today, only 44% of companies prioritize the energy efficiency of AI operations. But within 1 year, the number is expected to rise to 78%. And an overwhelming 96% of AI users expect their suppliers to set sustainability targets within the next 12 months. This finding confirms the urgency of sustainable AI is accelerating rapidly. And they also prove that industry leadership is not optional, it's expected, and it is essential. As we move from pledge to action, our experience at Delta Electronic Foundation point the way forward. AI for education, zero energy campus as living labs, industry energy optimization, world-class data center efficiency, and the global research partnership. Our conviction is clear. By combining innovation with education and the practical implementation, we can accelerate the transition to sustainable building and cooling systems. We look forward to working with all of you to inspire the next generations of climate leaders and to make sustainable, comfortable, low-carbon building the global norm. Thank you.
Many thanks, Dr. Chen. Thank you. This was very interesting to see AI as a potential accelerator for sustainability. And to all our participants, know that you will be able to access the presentations once we finish our session. And with that, I'm very pleased to welcome our next speaker, Teresa Aristegui, Policy Officer at DG Energy at the European Commission, who will share her perspectives on Europe's priorities for COP30, including alignment with the global climate goals. So, Teresa, we are very happy to have you here with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marie-Sophie. It was for now very interesting to hear the presentation so far. I'm sorry about the issues connecting earlier, so for those of you who lost some minutes at the beginning. So just to, as this was meant to be more of a keynote, thank you very much for including myself here as a policy officer in the Directorate General for Energy of the European Commission. So thank you, UNEP, Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction, and Cool Coalition. Very interesting series. We have, of course, our colleagues that are more the technical colleagues following energy efficiency, who could possibly continue following the rest of the webinars you organize. So let me begin by stating that 10 years on from Paris, we can see how far we have come. If we go back to 2015, only a handful of countries had national net zero targets. Continuation of then current policies would have meant a temperature rise of well above 3 degrees. Today, long-term pledges cover more than 90% of global emissions, and the world is on a path closer to 2.1 degrees. So in this sense, the Paris Agreement, thankfully, has created momentum, accountability, and a shared direction of travel. But we also know that the pace of global climate action remains too slow. The first global stocktake of COP28, the Dubai consensus outcome, has told us very clearly what needs to be done. And 2025, in this sense, for us in the European Commission, is a turning point. This year, countries must submit, as we know, the new post-2030 NDCs. And therefore, in our view, COP30 in Belém must provide the political space for an honest conversation on the collective ambition of those NDCs and how we can step up together to keep the 1.5 degrees within reach. Therefore, we see a need for a constructive, non-judgmental dialogue, real political direction from leaders. In this sense, our President von der Leyen is fully committed to holding the banner of the doubling of energy efficiency and tripling renewables global pledge. And partners out there can count on the EU as being a partner for predictability, ambitious, legally binding targets, and a stable investment environment. So let me move on to what are our EU priorities for COP30. First of all, ambition. So COP30 must make the shift from pledges to real delivery. We need ambitious NDCs, as mentioned, aligned with the Paris goal. Second, on implementation. We all committed in Dubai to tripling the renewable energy capacity and double the rate of energy efficiency improvements by 2030. It is the fastest, most cost-effective route to cut emissions, expand access to energy, and strengthen energy security. So now COP30 must prove that implementation is happening through global gateway in the case of EU support to renewables, renewable deployment and energy efficiency. Those specific projects are the European Union's way of contributing to these targets up until 2030. Third, finance. This, if you recall, was of course the big discussion of last year. We believe it will of course continue to be a top priority. We need to demonstrate that finance is flowing at scale, especially for emerging markets and developing economies. The Baku to Belém roadmap in this sense towards mobilizing, I think it is USD 1.3 trillion per year by 2035 is central here. I just have to make the point of the caveat because I know this is things that are still being a bit determined by our negotiators and other DGs working on COP. But essentially, this is about moving, again, pledges to projects and from billions to trillions. Fourth, it's about adaptation. So COP30 must deliver impact-driven indicators under the UAE framework for global climate resilience to help all parties scale up adaptation, action, and investment. Fifth, it's about justice. So as you remember, the European Green Deal was very much centered around the just transition, about leaving no one behind. And in this sense, the EU contributes through its own internal just transition mechanism that we call it at home, but also the external just energy transition partnerships with South Africa, for example, Indonesia and Vietnam. And those therefore would be really our five I mentioned priorities for COP30, alongside key partners, especially for doubling and tripling, for example, with the Global Renewables Alliance, with whom we're organizing in New York, also for you to note down in your agendas, a very important summit, the Global Renewable Summit. We all agree on a strong narrative for Belém. So one of the things we want to say is that implementation is happening now. Leaders are delivering update plans, real projects, and stronger targets. This is a very important figure we like to communicate. More than a dozen countries since COP28 have already raised their renewable energy targets. We must showcase these real-world examples of delivery and scale up. Secondly, finance is moving from pledge to project. Thirdly, flagship projects prove it is possible. So looking at regional interconnectors in Africa and Latin America, to breakthroughs in long-duration storage and green industrial development, those two topics, storage and in general industrial development, we see as being clearly placed as focus points, focus areas in COP. We must really show how these projects bring jobs, resilience, and clean power. Fourth, focusing on enablers. So unlocking, as I just said, grids and storage at scale, phasing down fossil fuels. And here, of course, we have a lot of different things around transitioning away from fossil fuels. If you think about the global methane pledge, there's a lot going on, which will be very active during this year's COP. And just in general, even if very broad, the need to ensure resilient supply chains, which also looks at the very complex world of critical raw materials, for instance. And then fifth, also in terms of narrative, I would say really the idea that energy security is non-negotiable. So with solar and wind, they do not come with price shocks. The message that our president will be really focusing on in the Climate Week in New York is that clean, homegrown, renewable energy and with that, energy efficiency improvements and notably investments in cooling solutions strengthen resilience. They cut import dependence and ensure stability in turbulent times. And just to go back to the idea of a just transition, the idea that prosperity and resilience needs to be available for all. So what are we doing in terms of the European Union? Looking at, for example, the NDC, we are on track to cut emissions by 55% by 2030 and to reach climate neutrality by 2050. We have proposed a 90% emissions reduction target for 2040, as you know, as part of the proposal of the European climate law. This is providing, thankfully, long-term certainty for investments, for markets. And we are investing over 100 billion euro in clean manufacturing under our our clean industrial deal. And just to say that I have to come in here with a word for the Global Energy Transitions Forum, which the president, our president von der Leyen, launched at Davos this year. If you are aware of that, its mission is to turn the tripling and doubling targets into reality. It's more of a political coalition of like-minded partners. Therefore, we are very happy for whoever is listening to this webinar to get in touch with anyone that is very, a strong supporter of doubling and tripling, anyone who wants to have a better idea of what this forum is going to be organizing at Belém. Please do get in touch with myself or anyone in the team of international relations of DG Energy of the Commission. For sure, we're aiming to host an important doubling and tripling leaders event, and there will be certainly a ministerial event taking place on, if not the energy days as such, a few days earlier, so possibly the 11th or 12th of November. And it's basically a forum of many countries that are signing up. More recently, we had the pleasure of counting on Canada as a supporter of the forum. Nigeria has also joined. The UK is a strong partner of ours with their own Global Clean Power Alliance. So again, I'm more than happy from our side to share more information on this forum and how it can link to the global ABC's objectives and UNEP's agenda. And just to finish, let me return to the focus of today's session, buildings and cooling. So of course, decarbonizing buildings and providing sustainable cooling are central to both mitigation and adaptation. That is the Commission's view, central to people's everyday lives. And we strongly support the leadership that Global ABC and the Cool Coalition is demonstrating with the support of UNEP. I have already held a few discussions with some of your colleagues. And as last year and the year before that in Dubai, DG Energy and of course, very likely our Commissioner for Energy would be more than happy to support any outcome that is expected as part of your pavilion. So do let us know what is in the pipeline, and we know there are some ideas for a roadmap or some action plan as follow-up to the declaration of Chaillot. So thank you once again very much. I hope this overview has been helpful, and you have my contact details for any follow-up meetings you might need. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Very, very impressive plan there from the European Commission, but also keeping in mind that nobody should be left behind in a just transition, like you said. And if anybody is interested in the Global Renewable Summit, it sounds very, very interesting. We will also be able to connect you with our speakers on anything you may need. Now, moving forward, we have a couple of lines from us, from Malia Lasley, who is a program expert at the Global ABC, and myself, representing the UN Environment Program. Will be pretty quick because I know you want to hear more from our panelists. But perhaps I can start by giving you a short update with where we stand with COP30 themes. Because in the beginning of August, the COP30 presidency released an official calendar with thematic days for Belém. And the program covers more than 30 interconnected themes, and it's designed to shift COP from a negotiation forum to an implementation platform. And as you can see in the slide right now, November 10th and 11th is on cities, local governments, and 14th, 15th is energy, industry, finance. 17th, 18th, biodiversity, indigenous peoples. 19th and 20th will be food systems, agriculture, and tourism. And in the pavilion sessions, we are working to anchor our events to these thematic days so that we can create a natural, organic platform for engagement and maximize impact, of course.
Yes. And also, the COP presidency announced that no events will take place on the 10th of November, even if it's part of the thematic days, but just to so everyone is informed. The Global EBC is also supporting strongly the COP presidency agenda, the Global Mutirao, by co-convening the Secretariat of the Activation Group 12 as part of the Axis 4 on buildings, sustainable cities, infrastructures, and water. And as part of this Axis 4, we are co-leading the Sustainable and Resilient Constructions and Buildings Activation Group. It entails supporting and showcasing all the built environment efforts like Rusmir and Teresa said, from pledges to action, from pledges to how do you say climate proof solutions and scalable ones. As part of the, as Teresa can ask, we do have a strong list of solutions that we will showcase at the Pavilion or at the Ministerial, mainly related to the acceleration of the buildings breakthrough priority actions deliverables. So we have 5 priority international actions, and each of them will showcase a granary of solutions. If we really want to be in line, we are in line of the COP presidency agenda. Launch of the global knowledge platform, supporting all capacity building effort to ensure to reach near zero in the built environment. We, in regards to the ministerial, we will also have a Belém call for actions, details to come soon, we hope. Marie-Sophie, if you want to continue on the deliverables of the unit, the rest of the, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So there will be a lot of importance placed on subnational action. The UNEP Cool Coalition, along with the COP30 presidency, will be launching Beat the Heat in cities, rather, as we call it internally, which is a national to local collaboration model. It aims to implement the Global Cooling Pledge through real, scalable urban action. And what it does is that countries are invited to engage their cities to showcase leadership on heat resilience, and then cities can undertake heat assessments and roll out different solutions on passive cooling, nature-based solutions. And with these actions, they can target the most vulnerable and really create measurable climate goals. That is a flagship initiative, like I said, that showcases subnational action. But other than that, we will also have a cooling ministerial, just like there will be a buildings ministerial that Malia mentioned. This could be the second cooling ministerial after last year. And there we will also launch the Global Cooling Watch 2025. This is UNEP's biennial edition on sustainable cooling. It is the premier report on driving sustainable cooling, and the first one was published at COP28. So between then and now, there have been 2 years that are the hottest years ever recorded, which basically means that this new edition will track how countries are responding to this rise in cooling needs on account of extreme heat. This Global Cooling Watch, it anchors the science behind the Global Cooling Pledge that over 70 countries and 80 non-state actors have already signed. So you understand that it offers a lot of pathways to implementation. There will also be a huge launch for the cities unit under the food waste breakthrough. And we will also have a lot of advocacy building on water-sensitive urban planning and events under Urban Shift. For more on that, you will see our next webinars. But for now, we still have some time for questions. And I want to make the most of that and ask our esteemed panel if you would like to answer a couple of questions. For example, I would address Rusmir, going back to the start, and Teresa, taking the end, so the beginning and the end, and talk about signals that you may have gotten from governments, from finance industry, on what is most important right now for countries and markets to get the confidence to scale up efficient buildings and sustainable cooling ahead of Belém. What do you think, based on whatever kind of signals you might have gotten on your meetings and roadshows as well, Rusmir? So first, for me, and maybe then Teresa can complement.
One of the main things that we've educated governments on from IFC side, because we bring that private sector voice, is there are non-fiscal incentives that governments can put into place that ultimately don't cost them anything, but really have a huge value to developers, right? That whether that's for the whole building, which includes energy and water, or for cooling specific. And we actually launched a report that focuses on municipal governments. We really think that the city governments is the place where a lot of these things can happen kind of more easily, if you will, that guides them through on how to put together a program. Sometimes green building codes can be harder because governments can't enforce them. But if they give incentives, and that can be higher, higher density, maybe faster permitting, there are all of these things that governments can benefit, that the developers can benefit from, but don't actually cost the governments anything. And there's some great lessons learned on how to put that together that came largely from our work in Latin America, where in Lima, we saw basically a sea change of the market with now green affordable housing really taking off because of this non-fiscal incentive that came through the government side. So that, I guess my message is, work with IFC, we can help you on the lessons learned, and it's not always about taxes or other fiscal incentives. There are lots of non-fiscal incentives that governments can launch.
I'll come in to compliment Rusmir. I mean, I can only agree with that take on how things are, more from your stakeholder, perspective. I think from a European Commission perspective, and working really at delivering on leader engagements and ministerial engagements, I think looking as well at things that they're not so much economic, complex economic models, additional financing. It's more about using these leader moments at COP, ministerial engagements, to really showcase real world delivery of projects, existing, financial projects that have been, in the case of the EU, financed by Global Gateway. And I think governments have a lot to do right now in terms of, speaking to the right people in the negotiating teams to see the right outcomes for energy efficiency and notably cooling in the new NDCs. So I think that would be the way of complementing those that are closer to project developers and just in general industry pushing projects forward with the more political level positive signaling towards these kind of projects.
Thank you both, and thank you for the concrete examples. Now we have time for one more question, and I want to engage our industry private sector speakers. Perhaps they will also address what is being mentioned in the chat through this question. So basically what we want to ask is, what role can industry leadership play in moving new solutions, cutting-edge solutions in cooling and the built environment from pilots to large-scale implementation and deliver impact on the ground. And that's for COP and beyond. And maybe we can start with Ms. Otsuka.
Okay, well, I believe that regarding this market creation levers, I believe that doing that requires a multi-layered approach. Well, first, maybe it's not a industrial part of view, but market creation must be driven by informed regulation and robust standards. I mean, establishing and updating technical standards that accurately reflect the performance of low carbon product is essential. But not only that, to make regulations truly effective, we think that market surveillance is a key. And second, I think policy development must reflect the complex array of influences. It's not only about air conditioners, but it's not an isolated issue. So it intersects with not only energy efficiency, but also with grid resilience and demand response, refrigerant transition, recovery, safety throughout product life cycle, etc., etc. So that's why we advocate for cross-sectoral dialogue as a industrial company and in integrated policy making that avoids fragmented approaches. So Daikin, we actively engage with governments, academia, and industry partners to co-create solutions that are both ambitious and practical. And so lastly, I think leadership requires grounded and transparent action. So at Daikin, we are committed to sharing accurate and neutral information and data as an evidence. But beyond that, we believe in the power of public-private academic collaboration. I think it cannot be only can be being approached by only from the industrial part, but I think the collaboration is the important part, and turning innovation into real-world impact. So yes, we aim to help shape a global market where sustainable cooling is not the exception, but the norm by demonstrating leadership, doing collaboration with government and academia and so on.
Thank you, Ms. Otsuka. Obviously, this is a cross-sectoral issue, and for this reason, we need broad collaboration. But I was wondering if Dr. Chen wanted to add a few cents on that.
Okay. I think industry leadership is very crucial in moving solutions from pilots to larger scale impact. First, by setting direction and credibility, when leading companies they adapt advanced cooling or green building technology in their own operation, it sends a clear market signal that these solutions are viable and ready for mainstream use. For example, Delta has demonstrated this by achieving a PUE of 1.1 in our data center, is well ahead of industry average. Second, by building ecosystems, leaders have the influence to align suppliers, technology partners, and the customers, and creating demand at scale. This will drive down cost and accelerate adoption, turning the isolated pilots into industry norm. Third, by ensuring accountability and transparency, industry leaders can track and share performance data, link outcomes to international frameworks, and prove that scaling up is also delivering real carbon and energy savings. So for our Delta Electronic Foundation, we see leadership as both innovating with our facilities, like AI-driven shared optimization and sharing those models openly so that others can replicate them. In this way, industry leadership transforms innovation into systemic change. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen, and thank you for bringing transparency into the mix as well. This is a very important aspect of what I want. So with that, I want to thank everyone for being with us today, all the speakers and all the participants in general. Our penultimate webinar will actually take place on October 9th at 4 o'clock Central European Time. A session confirming Pavilion contributions, and we'll have more information about the program and finalizing branding and other content deadlines. And make sure to secure your spot and sign up for this one. Thank you again for being with us, and see you all very soon. Have a nice evening or day, depending on where you are.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.